5 soldiers mocked a woman's tattoo, calling it fake military decoration. They laughed at her pretty bird design, thinking she was just another military girlfriend playing dress-up. Then their colonel saw the tattoo and went pale. What they thought was decoration was actually proof of the deadliest missions imaginable. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The hot North Carolina sun was beating down on Fort Braxton military base as Alex Martinez walked toward the commissary. She was wearing civilian clothes, jeans and a simple black tank top that showed a tattoo on her right shoulder. At first glance, it looked like artistic decoration, a stylized eagle with wings spread, surrounded by what appeared to be Celtic knotwork. Her posture was military straight, but she moved quietly, not drawing attention to herself. Near the commissary entrance, 5 soldiers were taking a smoke break. Sergeant Brooks was the loudest, a 24-year-old fresh sergeant who thought his new stripes made him important. Corporal Hayes and Corporal Rivera hung on his every word, while Private Johnson and Private Kelly, both new to the Army, were eager to fit in with the older guys. Brooks spotted Alex approaching and nudged Hayes with his elbow. "Check this out, boys. Looks like we got ourselves a military groupie." Hayes squinted at Alex's tattoo and laughed. "Oh man, look at that ink. Trying way too hard to look military." As Alex got closer, Rivera joined in the mockery. "That's the girliest military tattoo I've ever seen. What is that, a dove? A sparrow?" Johnson, trying to impress the others, added, "Probably got it at some strip mall tattoo parlor. Give me something that looks military but cute." Alex heard their comments but didn't respond, keeping her face expressionless. This wasn't the first time she dealt with assumptions and mockery about her appearance. Brooks called out louder, "Hey there, sweetheart. Nice bird tattoo. Did you get that to support your boyfriend in the military?" Alex stopped walking but didn't turn around. Her jaw tightened slightly but she remained silent. Kelly, feeling emboldened, continued, "Come on, don't be shy. We're just admiring your artwork." Hayes jumped in with more sarcasm. "Yeah, it's real pretty. Very decorative. I bet it looks great in those military wife Facebook groups." Rivera added, "My husband's deployed but I got this tattoo to show I support the troops." Classic dependopotamus move. The soldiers laughed among themselves, thinking they were hilarious. Other personnel walking by looked uncomfortable but didn't intervene. "Seriously though," Brooks continued, "what's with the fake military tat? You know that's stolen valor territory, right? Can't just slap on some eagle wings and call yourself military." Alex finally turned to face them. Her dark eyes were calm but there was something unsettling about her stare, like looking into deep water. "Is there a problem, Sergeant?" she asked quietly. Her voice was steady and controlled. She clearly wasn't intimidated, which threw Brooks off for a second. "Problem? Nah, no problem. Just curious about your art choices. That's supposed to be military themed?" Alex replied simply, "It's just a tattoo." They scoffed. "Just a tattoo," she says. "Right. And I suppose you just happened to choose an eagle because you like birds." Johnson added, "Bet she doesn't even know what branch uses eagles as symbols." Kelly chimed in, "Probably thinks it makes her look tough or something." Alex looked at each of them in turn, her expression unchanged. There was something about her stillness that was more intimidating than any angry response would be. "Are we done here?" she asked. Brooks wasn't backing down. "Done? Lady, we haven't even started. See, this is a real military base with real soldiers. We don't appreciate civilians coming around here playing dress-up with fake military tattoos." Rivera nodded aggressively. "Yeah, show some respect. People died for those symbols you're wearing like fashion accessories." The irony of their words hung in the air, but they were too caught up in their own superiority to realize it. Alex's response was quiet but pointed, "You're right. People did die for these symbols." Something in her tone made Hayes shift uncomfortably, but Brooks was too far into his performance to back down. "So maybe next time think twice before getting some pretty bird tattoo and trying to play soldier, sweetheart." Hayes added, "Could have at least gotten something that looks actually military instead of like Celtic bird art or whatever that is." More soldiers had started to gather, some watching the confrontation with interest, others looking uncomfortable. Johnson continued the mockery, "What's that design even supposed to be anyway? Looks like something from a fantasy novel." Kelly laughed, "Lord of the Rings Military Edition." Brooks was getting more aggressive. "Look, I get it. Military guys are hot, you want to look the part. But that tattoo is just embarrassing. No real soldier would take that seriously." Alex's response was measured, "And what would you know about real soldiers, Sergeant?" This made Brooks angry. What would I know? Lady, I've served 3 years in the army. I've deployed twice. I've earned my stripes the hard way. Alex nodded. 3 years. 2 deployments. That's impressive. Her tone was completely neutral, but somehow it sounded condescending. You got something to say it? Brooks demanded. I said it's impressive, Alex replied calmly. Hayes jumped to his sergeant's defense. Don't patronize him, lady. Sergeant Brooks has more military experience in his pinky than you'll ever have. Rivera added, yeah, show some respect to a real soldier instead of walking around here with your fake military ink. At that moment, the commissary doors opened and Colonel James Wright stepped out. He was 52 years old, career military with distinguished service, carrying the kind of presence that made even senior NCOs straighten up automatically. He had a coffee in his hand and appeared to be heading back to his office. The soldiers noticed him immediately and adopted more respectful postures. Brooks, trying to impress the colonel, spoke slightly louder. Like I was saying, ma'am, that tattoo of yours is just not appropriate for a military installation. Colonel Wright glanced over at the commotion, probably planning to keep walking and let the NCOs handle whatever minor drama was unfolding. But then his eyes landed on Alex. More specifically, they landed on her tattoo. Colonel Wright stopped dead in his tracks. His coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. His eyes widened as he stared at the design on Alex's shoulder, and all the color drained from his face. Jesus Christ, he whispered. He was staring at the tattoo like he'd seen a ghost. The Celtic knotwork that the soldiers had dismissed as decoration, Wright recognized it immediately. It wasn't Celtic at all. It was a complex series of symbols that represented mission codes, deployment markers, and unit identifiers that officially didn't exist. The eagle wasn't just any eagle. It was the specific design used by Task Force Phoenix, a black operations unit so classified that even mentioning its name required security clearance levels that most colonels didn't have. But Wright did have that clearance. And he knew exactly what he was looking at. Wright dropped his coffee and moved quickly toward Alex. Ma'am, I need you to come with me. Right now. The soldiers looked completely confused. Brooks stepped forward, thinking he needed to explain the situation to the colonel. Colonel, sir, we were just telling this civilian that her tattoo is inappropriate for her. Wright cut him off sharply. Sergeant, you will shut your mouth right now and step back. The command was delivered with such authority that Brooks immediately complied, though confusion was written all over his face. Wright pulled out his secure military phone and speed-dialed a number. When someone answered, he spoke in low, urgent tones. This is Colonel Wright. I need a security detail to the commissary immediately. I have a potential OPSEC situation involving classified unit identifiers. He paused, looking at Alex. Priority Alpha. Yes, I said Alpha. The soldiers were looking at each other in complete bewilderment. Hayes whispered to Rivera, what the hell is going on? Rivera just shrugged, equally confused. Johnson and Kelly looked like they wanted to disappear. Within minutes, military police arrived in 2 vehicles. Staff Sergeant Martinez, no relation to Alex, approached Colonel Wright. Sir, you called for security? Wright nodded toward Alex. This individual has markings that indicate possible classification levels requiring immediate verification and protection protocols. Alex finally spoke up. Colonel, that's not necessary. I'm not active anymore. Wright looked at her with something approaching awe. Ma'am, with respect, that tattoo says otherwise. Protocol is protocol. He turned to the MP, I need her escorted to a secure location for identity verification. Brooks couldn't contain himself anymore. Colonel, sir, I don't understand. It's just some civilian with a bird tattoo. We were telling her it was inappropriate too. Wright spun around, his face red with anger. Sergeant Brooks, you have no idea what you're talking about. That is not just a bird tattoo. Wright pointed at Alex's shoulder. What you dismissed as decorative Celtic knotwork are mission identifiers from operations that are classified above your clearance level. What you called a pretty bird is the symbol of Task Force Phoenix, a unit that officially doesn't exist and has conducted operations that you don't have the security clearance to even hear about. The soldiers' faces went white. Hayes stammered, Sir, we didn't know. Wright cut him off. You didn't know because you made assumptions. You saw a woman in civilian clothes and decided she couldn't possibly be military. You mocked symbols that represent sacrifices you can't even imagine. Colonel Wright turned back to Alex. Ma'am, I need to ask, what was your classification level? Alex sighed, clearly not wanting to have this conversation. TS/SCI with additional compartmentalized access. But I'm retired, Colonel. Medical discharge 3 years ago. Wright nodded grimly. The tattoo indicates Task Force Phoenix operations. How many missions? Alex was quiet for a long moment. 17 confirmed. 3 years active with the unit before the IED incident that ended my career. The gathered soldiers were dead silent now. Brooks looked like he might be sick. Task Force Phoenix was legendary among military personnel. The kind of unit that only existed in whispered stories and classified briefings that most soldiers would never see. 17 missions, Wright repeated, shaking his head in amazement. Ma'am, I've been in the military for 28 years, and I've only met 3 Phoenix operators in my entire career. You conducted 17 Black Ops missions, and these soldiers were mocking your tattoo as fake military wannabe stuff. Alex looked at the group of soldiers who had been harassing her. Gentlemen, I wasn't trying to prove anything to you. I wasn't trying to look military or impress anyone. That tattoo represents 3 years of my life that I can't talk about, in places that don't exist, doing things that never happened officially. Brooks finally found his voice. Ma'am, we didn't know. We thought. Alex held up a hand. You thought I was a civilian playing dress-up. I understand. It happens. Hayes stepped forward, his face flushed with embarrassment. Ma'am, we owe you an apology. A huge apology. We were completely out of line. Rivera nodded vigorously. We had no right to say those things. We were being jerks. Johnson and Kelly both looked like they wanted to crawl into holes and disappear. Johnson managed to say, Ma'am, we're sorry. We didn't mean any disrespect. Kelly added quietly, we were wrong. Completely wrong. Colonel Wright wasn't finished addressing the situation. Sergeant Brooks, your behavior today was unprofessional and unbecoming. You harassed a decorated veteran based on assumptions and prejudice. This will be reflected in your next evaluation. He looked at the other soldiers. All of you will report to my office tomorrow morning at 0800 for additional counseling on respect, military bearing, and recognizing that service members come in all forms. Just because someone isn't in uniform doesn't mean they haven't served with more distinction than you can imagine. Alex spoke up again. Colonel, if I may, I don't think additional punishment is necessary. They made a mistake based on incomplete information. We all make mistakes. Wright looked at her with respect. Ma'am, that's very generous of you, but behavior like this reflects on the entire command. The MP staff sergeant approached. Colonel, do you still need the secure escort? Wright looked at Alex. Ma'am, would you prefer to discuss your situation in a more private setting? Alex shook her head. I just want to buy some groceries and go home. But thank you for recognizing the symbols. Not many people would have. Wright nodded. Phoenix operators are trained to blend in, to be invisible. But that tattoo. Those symbols tell a story that only people with the highest clearances would understand. The fact that you're walking around a regular base, living a normal life, it speaks to your strength. Alex's expression softened slightly. Colonel, those missions, that unit, it was important work. But it took everything from me. My health, my relationships, my ability to sleep through the night. I'm proud of my service, but I'm also glad it's over. Brooks stepped forward hesitantly. Ma'am, can I ask, what was it like? Being in that unit? Alex looked at him for a long moment. Sergeant, it was necessary work that someone had to do. But it's not something I can discuss, and it's not something you'd want to hear about even if I could. The weight of that statement hung in the air. These soldiers had been deployed, had seen combat, but Alex was talking about a level of operations that existed in a completely different realm from their experience. Hayes asked quietly, Ma'am, how do we make this right? Alex considered the question. You learn from it. You remember that you can't judge someone's service by their appearance. You remember that the most dangerous people often look the most ordinary. Colonel Wright added, and you remember that respect is earned through service, not through rank or appearance. This woman has served at levels most of us can't even imagine, and she did it while maintaining operational security so tight that even now, she can't talk about most of what she did. Alex looked at her watch. Colonel, I really do need to finish my shopping. But thank you for intervening. And Sergeant Brooks, she turned to face him directly, your 3 years of service and 2 deployments are impressive. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We all serve in different ways. Brooks nodded, still looking ashamed. Ma'am, thank you. And again, I'm deeply sorry for what we said. The other soldiers echoed his apology, all of them clearly understanding now the magnitude of their mistake. As Alex walked toward the commissary entrance, Colonel Wright called after her. Ma'am, if you ever need anything medical care, benefits assistance, anything, you have my direct number. Alex smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from her. Thank you, Colonel. That means more than you know. After Alex disappeared into the commissary, Wright turned back to the soldiers. Gentlemen, what happened here today is a lesson you'll remember for the rest of your careers. That woman has done things for this country that will never be acknowledged publicly. She's earned medals that will never be displayed. She's made sacrifices that will never be recognized. He paused, looking at each of them. And you mocked her because she didn't look like what you thought a soldier should look like. Let that sink in. Brooks nodded slowly. Sir, we understand. We won't make that mistake again. Wright continued, Task Force Phoenix operators are selected from the top 1% of Special Operations Forces. They undergo psychological screening that eliminates 95% of applicants. The survival rate for Phoenix missions is classified, but I can tell you it's not high. Rivera asked quietly, Sir, how many Phoenix operators are there? Wright shook his head. That's classified. But I will tell you this, they're so elite that most generals don't know they exist. And that woman completed 17 missions with them. As the soldiers walked away, each lost in his own thoughts, Wright remained behind for a moment. He picked up his dropped coffee cup and looked toward the commissary entrance where Alex had disappeared. He had served for nearly 3 decades, had commanded units in multiple combat zones, had clearances that allowed him to know some of the military's deepest secrets. But he had never expected to encounter a Phoenix operator buying groceries at the base commissary, and he certainly never expected to see one being mocked by junior enlisted personnel who had no idea what they were looking at. Later that evening, Brooks sat in his barracks room, staring at the ceiling. His roommate, Corporal Davis, asked what was wrong. We messed up today, man. Bad. He told Davis the story, watching his friend's expression change from amusement to disbelief to horror. You mocked a Phoenix operator? Davis asked. Dude, those are like ghosts. Urban legends. I didn't even think they were real. Brooks nodded miserably. They're real. And we treated one like she was some military groupie with a fake tattoo. The next morning, all 5 soldiers reported to Colonel Wright's office as ordered. The counseling session was thorough and humbling. Wright made sure they understood not just what they had done wrong but why it mattered. The military is changing, he told them. We have more women in combat roles, more diverse backgrounds, more people who don't fit the traditional stereotype of what a soldier looks like. Your job is to recognize and respect service in all its forms. 6 months later, Brooks was promoted to staff sergeant. But he never forgot the lesson he learned that day at the commissary. He became known for treating every person with respect, regardless of their appearance or apparent status. His soldiers respected him for it, and his superiors noticed. Alex continued her quiet civilian life, shopping at the commissary, living in her small off-base apartment, attending VA appointments for her ongoing medical issues related to her service injuries. Most people still didn't know who she was or what she had done. And that was exactly how she wanted it. But occasionally she would run into someone who recognized the symbols on her tattoo. Always someone with high-level clearances, always someone who understood what they were looking at. The conversations were always brief, always respectful, always tinged with the kind of acknowledgement that can only exist between people who have served at the highest levels. The tattoo remained a constant reminder of who she had been, what she had done, and what she had sacrificed. It was art that told a story most people would never be able to read. And sometimes, just sometimes, it served as a reminder that you should never judge someone by their appearance. Because the most dangerous people often look the most ordinary. And the greatest heroes often just want to buy groceries in peace.